Well, hey, good morning, everyone. It's super exciting to see where we're kind of at as a church in the season that we're in, our calling to love and lead one another, to be devoted followers of Jesus. That's our aim, that's our mission, and in that, we're in a season of multiplication. So many of you have heard of us talk about this new church plant that we're launching in South Meridian starting in the fall called Stone Hill. And doing that, it's just a blessing to be able to see this community and go, hey, we need more churches. Let's launch one out of Rockharbor. We're only 4 years old. That sounds like a really good idea. It's actually a God idea. So that's how we're viewing it. And we believe that God has led us to this. And so we're inviting, as Brandon was talking about a little bit earlier, we're inviting 200 to 300 people to be sent out to go be part of Stone Hill. We're going to be meeting in Victory Middle School, which is incredible. The school will be finished in August, just in time for us to move in. That was really nice of them to do that for us. But no, we have a great relationship. We're looking forward to investing in that school, investing in that community, sending out Doug and Heather and an awesome team. In your bulletin, okay, I want to bring a little bit of attention. In your bulletin is a communication card. If you would get that out, I know you usually save that stuff for later in the message when you get bored and you start falling asleep and stuff and it gets awkward. But if you would take it out now, there's a box on there that says, God has led me to be part of Stonehill Church. We're starting to build this core launch team now. We don't want to just kind of, hey, in September, let's get this rolling. We want to use the summer to build momentum and begin to sink deep into that community. And so if God's led you to that and you know that's something you've been praying about and you know that that's the direction, would you mark that with us? If you're still thinking and praying, that's okay. But we would love if you know that that's the direction that God's leading you to do that. Also, if you're not going, whether you're going or sending, or whether you're going or staying, we're all called to send. Okay, and this is an opportunity for us to not just invest in prayer, but also financially invest in this opportunity. We've got stuff on the website if you want to do that, give online. It's about $100,000, $150,000 to be able to launch this body. And so if you could invest financially in that, we want to compel and encourage and invite you to invest now. There's something to be said about giving into the first fruits of an opportunity like this. And so please do that. You can also mark it on your check by putting church plant and then Stone Hill. It's our church plant fund. And honestly, this has been our plan from the beginning. We didn't know the timing. We didn't know the per person or the people and all of that. But from the very beginning of Rockharbor, when the first funds came in, 1% went to a church plant fund. We knew we were going to plant a local church here. And so it's good to be able to see that. I can't wait to blow that money that we've been saving up invest that money in the kingdom. But it's going to be a portable and a great opportunity. We want to start with a couple of staff members. And so please consider being part of that by way of sending as well. But these are exciting things that are going on. Next week's Mother's Day. I'm telling all the dads that so you're prepared. You have no excuses. But to be ready, next week's Mother's Day. But we're doing some child dedications during service. And there's been a little bit of a switch up. We were supposed to jump into John next week, right back into John, which is the man's mindset. We're trying to get in the mind of Jesus. What does Jesus, what's he about, what's in his mind, and what is he sharing in the last days of his life? We're about John 13. But we're going to hold off a week because on Wednesday, I felt like I was saying, you need to talk on loving and leading. You need to talk on moms, and you need to focus on that. And so I have no idea what I'm speaking on. And plus, I just got this message ready about 15 minutes ago. So it's just another week at Rockharbor. But actually, for real though, I feel like God is saying we need to step back for a second. We can get to John, but there's a message that God's begun to brew in my heart. And so I'm excited to be able to share that next week. It's going to be a great week to bring friends, to be connected, to hear what we're about as a body. So please make plans to be here next week. Invite some people to join with you. So this week, we'll be talking about love. We're in Loveology. It's our final week in it. This is a process. We don't ever arrive at being a loveologist, although someone bought this t-shirt and sent it to the office, to the Loveology department. They sent this in. I think it's hilarious. It's not really true, but we've got that. Here's another one that we got in. Love World's Greatest, okay? They were just being funny with it and all of that, but the truth is we're all in process. We're learning. We're learning what it means to love and lead. We're learning what it means to be single and honor God, but then also to honor God in our marriages, to be single again. These are all topics and things that we've been talking about a little bit over the series. And so we're still in process, and today we get a view into Solomon and the Shulamite woman's life and how they're managing a maturing marriage, okay? How they're leading in a maturing marriage, not just the lovey-dovey phase, but the deeper things. And today we're going to specifically talk about the difference between intention and action. Okay, intention and action. Here's my intention. I have had an intention that I'm going to take my 6 children out to shop for Mother's Day before Mother's Day at 2 o'clock. I've had that intention for a really long time. I have never done it, okay? It will go to church. I don't know what it is about the month of May. Trust me, I have a bunch of excuses on why my actions are the way that they are. But what I find myself doing, it's like 1 o'clock, we go eat after church, and it's like, hey, hon, so like we kind of need to go to Walmart real quick. The kids all have $2, and we got to put it together. I'll throw in 5. We'll get you something for 17. That's 2 times 6 children. The more kids you have, the better gifts you get, moms. But 2, and it's a great way to get things and ruin your life. But 2 times 6 plus 5, $17. Let's get you something real nice, you know. I'm making a commitment before God, before you, before my wife, and before that camera that we're going to go shopping before Mother's Day, okay? I don't know what it is. I have problems. And I think I've confessed more sins during this series and failures than anyone on record. Anyways, this is the deal. With intention, with action is this. Oftentimes, we generally judge other people by their actions, but ourselves by our intentions. So we look at other people and we say, oh, they didn't do this, and this is what they did do. But we look at ourselves with a crazy amount of grace. We look at ourselves like, man, you know, I can justify that. I can excuse that. In fact, I was on the airplane yesterday, and the guy sitting next to me, we had a good conversation, and I told him I was a pastor, and I said, I got to work on my message. He's like, all right, and he was kind of chilling there, and he hadn't gone to sleep, and I said, hey, you want to help? Because I'm trying to make, you know, I'm like, hey, let's get some help here. And he said, sure thing, and so we start talking. We had a great conversation. In fact, here's one of the statements that we came up with, okay? We divide and justify our intentions, but we multiply and analyze others' actions. Okay, we divide and justify. We divide our intentions and this is why and this is what. And we have these internal conversations in our mind. We start saying when a conflict comes about, we start justifying why we act a certain way. And then we start to put together. Does anybody else have internal conversations in their mind of why you were right and why they're wrong? Okay, just me? Okay, and Greg. Okay. Yeah, we have these conversations that go on. And we have unlimited grace for us. But then when it comes to them, we're going, oh, but this and this and this. And that's just the work of the evil one. That's just Satan trying to get in. And it's also trying for us to shift blame and not own certain things. And I appreciate that guy. He's a dentist. And so we're talking, we're like, dude, this is good. We need to write a book. And so we're going to write a book. It's called Tooth and Soul. And so I'm excited about that opportunity. But the goal today is to really close the gap on intention and action. We want to close that gap. We want to bring it in because there's a gap that exists. Those intentions when you're in Costco, guys, and you're going to buy stuff and you see those flowers over there, you're like, sweet deal right there. I'm going to be back on those, you know? And you go around, once you fill your cart with $248, you come back around and you're like, I don't know. I don't really know if we need them. I'm not sure. Maybe, I don't know if she'll like them, you know? And then you just keep going and you check out and then you give the receipt and they frisk you and then you go home, right? So that's, that whole experience is, it's an example of this intention. We wanted to say something, we just didn't. We wanted to do something, we just didn't. And so we've got to change the way that we're living. We got to close this gap. Proverbs 18:21 says, the tongue can bring life or death. The point behind this is this. If you think something good, say it. The tongue can bring life or it can bring death. If you think something good, say it. If you think something bad, don't. Okay, that's point 2. It's actually not. But point 1, think something good, then say it. If you want a life-giving marriage, you have to speak life-giving words. If you want a life-giving work environment, it starts with you. I don't care what role that we're in. We need to speak life-giving words. You want a life-giving classroom, maybe you're a teacher, speak life-giving words. You want a life-giving team. I know you can't fix your team and you can't fix it all. Be a life-giving, good word-speaking, encouraging individual, and it'll start to rally around that. It starts with us. If you've got a compliment, share it, text it. If you're married, just send that simple text. Whatever it takes that once you have it in our mind, we've got to take the steps towards that. I don't know what it is about sticky notes, but I've always loved them. I love sticky notes. Maybe it feels like I'm getting something done or I'm doing something. But when you write on it and then that feeling of tearing it off and just boom in the trash, look what I did, It's fun. So my wife knows this, so she made me a sticky note encouraging heart and put it on the mirror in our bathroom. And I walk in and I see all of these things. And I'm like, yes, because I'm a words of affirmation guy. Can you turn the slide? Because there's some dirty stuff on there. I don't want everybody to see. Okay, thank you. I'm not kidding. She is a dirty woman. She's way dirtier than me. She says stuff. No, I'm just kidding. But I took a picture of that, and I have it on my phone. I've had it for probably a year. It's in my favorites. I never take it out of there. I always want it there. Not because I just want to cry and, have a moment. It's honestly because I'm a words of affirmation. It's nice to hear. It's nice to see those things. And it's just nice as a reminder. I don't click on it and zoom in and go, oh, yeah, she said I had a cute butt. Because she didn't say that. That part was blurred out. But anyways, that's being in the word here. But it encourages me. Song of Solomon, we're getting to the point where Solomon is expressing this love. And remember, it's a maturing relationship. This is not the honeymoon anymore. This isn't the wedding night. He was saying some smooth things on that night, okay? Guys, you can be really smooth at times when you want to be smooth. We have smoothness just comes out, which can be awkward if it's only at certain times, okay? This is a time where they went through a trial in their relationship and their marriage is maturing. So their marriage is maturing. You want to know how you know your marriage has matured? It's when you've had an opportunity to leave, but you've chosen to stay. You've had that chance to walk away, but you've chosen to stay. I'm not just talking about the first little thing that happens in a marriage. I'm talking about difficult things. I'm talking about the loss of a loved one. I'm talking about sin that has crept in, or the more than just a little bit of conflict, like we kind of didn't really get along about something, but we're talking like more than I'm just going to call my mom a little bit. You're thinking, I'm going to call a lawyer. I'm going to call a counselor. We have to do something now. That's when you start seeing a marriage mature, and it takes time, and it gets sweeter with time. So Solomon's words here are deeper, and they're genuine, and they're more unique than what we've read before. Chapter 7, verse 1 says, "How beautiful are the feet in your sandals, O noble daughter. Your rounded thighs are like jewels, the work of a master's hand." That's pretty smooth right there. "Your navel is a rounded bowl that never lacks the mixed wine." That's what I'm talking about, the mixed wine. Smooth. Okay? "Your belly is a heap of wheat." Not smooth. Not smooth, bro. I think he ran out of stuff to say. I think he's like, "Your belly's a heap of wheat." But then he capped it off and he's like, whoa, not smooth. And then he says, "Encircled with lilies." Let me just throw that, encircled with lilies there. And then he goes to his go-to line. "Your breasts are like fawns, twins of a gazelle." He knows that's always there. That's Old Faithful. He's got that one. He's going to say that every time he gets a chance. What's funny about that, and actually what's kind of cool about that, the one that we laughed about, the belly, do you know what that means? He's saying your innermost being is beautiful. Your innermost being. He's not saying, "and you're kind of round with lilies," He's actually complimenting who she is at the core. This is a statement that he's wanting to make, that I love every bit of you. And he's starting from the bottom, this time working his way up. Last time he started from the top, worked his way down. This time he's starting at the bottom, working his way up. He's not just thinking something kind, he's saying something kind. He's taking that next step of kindness. What if we did that as parents? If you're a parent in here, what if you did that as a parent? You said those things. As a student, as a son or a daughter, what if those kind words that you could say, that you're thinking, if I say them, we live our life like it's a chess game. We think if I say that, then I'm going to lose leverage and I can't play hard. Students, I just want to be honest with you. The more that you edify your parents now, the better your life will be. And I'm not saying say things that aren't true, but really look at what you have in your life and distribute that. Let them know the gratitude that you have. I look at my life as a teenager, and if I would have just encouraged my sister and said kind words, my two younger brothers, they were 5 years and 6 years younger than me. It don't matter. They deserved what they got coming. I was toughening them up, right? But if I would have just edified my sister, man, I just think of that relationship. That's some regret that I have in my life. I wished I would have done that. So me speaking on the other side of maybe how old you are as a student or maybe a young adult, the more edification and encouragement you can allow to flow through you, the better the quality your life will be. I'm not even kidding. And I'm not just saying that's not even a biblical principle. It is, but I'm saying that also just naturally. Be edifying. Now, what about your marriage? He's getting very specific here. There's some powerful words in our language that are, I love you. Those are powerful words. Those are words in relationships that some of us are longing for, or we're like, you say it first. Oh, they said it, I'm say it back. Or they say it, you say it back. And rather than it just being a simple exchange of communication, what if we added a fourth word, the word because? What if we had the word because? I love you because. Because that opens up details as to why the love exists. That changes everything. For some of you, what if that's the challenge this week? What if we all sent that text? I love you because. Put it on your to-do list. Start it right now. I mean, shoot, do it right now during the message, But get it out there. Edify. I love you because. And begin to say, I'm going to add to that. Maybe it's a face-to-face conversation of here's why. That's why that heart with those sticky notes, these are the becauses. These are the whys. These hold value. These hold weight. This isn't just 3 words that can be tossed around, and that's what we're supposed to say because we're married, or that's what we're supposed to say because this is my son or my daughter, or this is what we kind of say as friends, like love you bro, like love you man, like love you girl, lips and whatever you guys do with your emojis. But it's the because side. Here's specifically why I love you. That changes everything. Words of affirmation are important for everyone. There's 5 love languages talked about, but it's also one that's very valuable because in our culture right now, studies show that you will hear 19 negative things to 1 positive. So of all the things, and these are messaging, it's not just stuff that people say to you. It's messaging, some of it's felt things of a situation, but they estimate 19 negative things. I mean, if you're on social media, just even looking at other people's things sometimes brings some negative things to you that you don't even realize, but they say 19 to 1. So any kind of encouraging word is a good word. We got to share more of that. We got to give more of that. For me, I ask my wife every single week after speaking, I'm like, hey, what did you think of the message? It's just, what do you think of the message? Oh, it was good. I'm like, oh, well, give me something. That's good. It's always good. If it's always like it always is, it wasn't that good. So be honest with me, but don't be too honest because then I'll go in the fetal position. But would you tell me words of affirmation? A close second to that is like physical touch. It's like the trailer. It's like, So like hold me too while you tell me these things. But what is it? What? Tell me, share with me. And so for you, all of us, whether this is our love language, maybe it's serving, maybe it's acts of service or gifts or quality time, this is still very, very valuable. And they're illustrating this for us. Listen to what he continues to say in verse 4. Your neck's like an ivory tower. Your eyes are the pools of Heshbon. By the gate of Bath-rabbim, your nose is like a tower of Lebanon, which looks towards Damascus. This is confusing, but hold on. Your head crowns you like Carmel, and your flowing locks are like purple. A king is held captive in the tresses. How beautiful and pleasant are you, O loved one, with all your delights. Your stature is like a palm tree, and your breasts are like clusters. I say, I will climb the palm tree. I will lay hold of its fruit. Oh, may your breasts be like clusters of the vine, and the scent of your breath like apples, and your mouth like the best wine. Girl, you be like a fine wine. You get sweeter with time. That's my version. That's the SDK, the Smooth Daddy Keith one. But he's saying these things, and these are deep statements he's making. So when he says you're a Tower of Lebanon, that's a really big deal because the enemies would attack from the north. So this Tower of Lebanon is what protected the fortified city. So you understand what he's saying there. He's not just saying your neck is pretty. He's saying, I can trust you. You have my back. This is the man saying that. See, we often think it the other way around, that a woman should be able to look at her husband and say, hey, I trust you, protect us. You're the tower that notices all sorts. You know what? Satan's going to attack your garden, which if our marriage is a garden, whatever way he can get in there. And he needs us to be on the same page. I shared this in premarital counseling. I don't have the picture for it, but there was a movie. It was really good. It was called Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Brad and Angela. But it was not that great. But I do remember like a piece of the movie where it shows them back to back in like a Home Depot, like lighting up the place. Totally unrealistic. Lighting up like with guns, okay? And so they're like protecting each other, but it was almost like they flanked one another, that wherever they went, they knew that they were protected, that person had their back. And that's what he's saying here. He's saying, you're my Angelina Jolie. No, okay, he's not saying that. He's just saying, I can trust you and you will protect me. Wow, those are big words. I love you because I can trust you. I love you because you protect me. I love your innermost being. I love who you are. I love the way that you treat other people. I love you because I saw your heart come out today, even in the tough thing we dealt with the kids about. Mom and Dad, I love you because now I'm experiencing what you experienced with me, and I've never loved you more because my children are worse than I could have ever been. I love you because of that. Would you come visit? You know, can they stay at your house? I love you because you take my children for hours upon end, you know, whatever it is. But it's bringing this because factor in. Let's bring the next level of edification and encouragement. But she's not letting just him do this communication. No. Now it's her turn. She's saying this as he's talked about that fine wine. Notice I glazed right over 7 and 8. I read them, but I didn't go there because we went there 3 weeks ago, and I don't want to be called dirty. Okay, verse 9 says this. It goes down smoothly, this wine, for my beloved, gliding over lips and teeth for my beloveds, and his desire for me. She's saying, you're mine. I'm yours. Your love for me. And I'm not just going to think it. I'm going to say it. And I'm not just going to have intentions around this. I'm going to bring action around this. If you think it, say it. If you think something special, then do it. We have to take that step. We have to be purposeful in the time that we invest. Come, my beloved. Let us go out in the fields and the lodge and in the villages. We need a getaway. We need to get away. We need to get away with one another. We need to spend time together. In order to get away with one another, you're going to probably have to say no to something. You have to say no to extra work, or you're saying yes to extra work so you can get away. But you're probably saying no to a busy schedule. You're saying we're going to prioritize this. You're saying we're going to do whatever it takes, make arrangements, whatever for the kids. But we're going to make a commitment that we're going to get this time together. We're going to prioritize dating. We're going to put some other things aside. We're going to say no to a certain club sport because mama and daddy are going to Hawaii. You know what I'm saying? That hurt a little bit. It's true. What if we gave priority to certain things in our life? Our marriages, each other, even the discipleship of our children. And we're saying, no, I got to tend to the garden. Verse 12 says, let us go out early to the vineyards and see whether the vines have budded, whether the grape blossoms have opened, or whether the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my love. It's saying, let's go out into the park. Let's go out into the orchards. Let's go out into the vineyards, and let's enjoy one another physically is what it's saying. Celebrate your love in a park is what you heard at Rockharbor. Go to Settlers and enjoy one another. For the glory of God. You know, I didn't say that. That was not said, okay? This was pre-Google Earth, okay? This was a king that had he had tons of places to go and do things like those things, okay? But what it's saying is prepare, make plans, have thoughtful and purposeful time as well as thoughtful and purposeful acts, because then it says the mandrakes give forth fragrance, and beside our doors are all the choice fruits, new as well as old, which I have laid up for you, O my beloved. Mandrakes again. It's talking about raisins again. It's saying, let's bring about this is a raisin a fruit? What is that? It's dried up something, okay? Bring out the dried up somethings that are an aphrodisiac, okay? I mean, picture this, that enhance desire, and that also it's known for its fertility enhancement, okay? So it's saying, let's eat the raisins. Somebody sent me this picture. We've been getting the greatest texts and emails and tagged. Somebody sent me this from Costco, and they said, this is after the 9 o'clock service. They're probably going to be out by 11, okay? And then they said, we also deserve a commission. But there's planning. There's planning. Bring the good fruits. Bring the older fruit. We want to be enhanced with our sense. Every sense that's there, I want to enjoy this with you. It takes time. It takes work. If you think something special, then do it. And if you want something different, then be it. That's what we've been talking about for 5 weeks. If you want something different, then be it. That's it. Remember, she made a decision. She said, I don't want to be like everybody else wearing a veil. I'm not a prostitute. That's what they are. I'm not ashamed. Yes, I'm embarrassed that my skin is a little bit darker because I've spent a lot of time outside. But I don't hold any shame because I believe that there's going to be something special that God has given me. And I'm choosing a different route. I'm going to be something different. Then they made a choice to not ripen love or not to allow the foxes to take the blossom or to take the fruit off the vine before it's ready. They said, you know what? In our singleness, we're going to be pure. Do I want you? Heck yeah. Are we going to wait? Heck yes. We are. We're waiting. We're not in a hurry. Yes, I'm burning with desire for you, but I want to do this right and I want God's blessing long term. So I'm choosing to not do this. Those are decisions that we have to make when we're single or single again. It doesn't matter. Did you hear that? Those are choices we make when we're single or single again to maintain purity. And last week, how do we handle conflict? A choice to live differently. What if we chose to, rather than just reacting, what if we responded? What if we were patient? Craziest thing, what if we carried out the fruit of the Spirit with our spouse? What would our life look like? These are hard things, but these are good things. There's a fair way to fight in a relationship. There's a fair way to do things. There's a God way to live. And we can't change them often, but God can change us. But marriage is so much work. Oh my goodness, it's so much work. And a great marriage doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't just happen. It's an immense amount of work. You know when the Bible talks about the wide road and the narrow? It says there's a wide road and it's an easy path and there's a lot of people on it. And then there's a narrow road and not many people travel it. That's the road to Jesus. It's a narrow road that not many people travel because it's dangerous. You would say a life away from God is dangerous. Yes, it is because of an eternal destination. But a life with Christ is incredibly risky with the security of where it ends and the joy of the journey and the scars that we bear. The Bible says, blessed are the persecuted. So if your marriage is trouble, you're in good company. There's a good place that God can bring his redemption and show himself. That narrow road, our marriages that have been through tough things, working through saying, man, I want my marriage to mature. I want it to multiply. I want this garden to produce some fruit. I'm going to do the work that it takes. Or we could stay the same. What if we keep the same pattern? That's called insanity. You know what that is? That's doing the same things over and over and over and expecting a different result, right? The grass is not greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. Do you guys believe that? It's greener where you fertilize it. It's not someone else's grass and looking across the street and checking out what they have going on. It's saying, hey, I'm going to water my grass. I like this one a little bit better. If the grass is greener on the other side, there's probably more manure there. Okay? Which is true. It's so true. Because we can look at the life that other people live or portray. We get to see the highlight reel of everybody. I mean, with social media and all sorts of things and putting out, I went here and I did this and I did this and I got this and we went out again and then we went out again. And I'm like, who's raising your kids, you know? Like, anyways, this is a little bit of bitterness coming out. But you just think about it. And the truth is it's probably a couple that's just like us that probably might have gotten an argument or was running a little bit late because of one person came home late from work or whatever, but they made it there enough time to post and then leave, you know. But it can't be about the highlight reel that we see in everyone else. We have to really look deeply into our garden and say, what are we doing here? What are we growing here? What, if given more time, is going to multiply into something that is good or something that is not good? And this part of the message, we've been praying for, because this is a part where I'm going to specifically talk to men. And I don't want this to come across as rude. I don't want it to come across as judgmental. But I'm a guy, so I can say this because I need to hear this too. But we live in a world and a culture that just wants to kind of make everything equal. But God has actually designed roles in the marriage. And God is the master gardener, okay? He's the one that gives oversight. But in a marriage, God has given a man and a woman, and they both have a responsibility to tend the garden. But the lead gardener, biblically speaking, is to be the male. And is to lead in different ways. Not more important ways, different ways. Men, how are you gardening? What's getting your best time? What's getting your best skills? What in your life is getting your best creative thought? What's getting your energy? What's getting your laughter? Did you hear that? What are you enjoying? What's getting your attention? Is it your garden? Is it your marriage and your family? Is it the nurture that's being poured into that soil? These are hard questions. Because if you're like me, you can be passive. And you can be tired. And you're looking for a break. And when you walk in that house, and the noise and the dog and everything just hits you, it feels like a second job. It's your first job. It's my first job. My first responsibility is to the gardener and my relationship to nurture that so that I can garden well. It's not my second. And I've flipped those so many times. And then I get reminded in a message like this, or I get reminded in a men's study like the 33 study, where I learned to reject passivity and accept responsibility, to lead courageously and to invest eternally. And I get together with a group of guys and we're like, let's go do this. We need to be reminded again because we're dudes, right? And we have attention problems and we have commitment issues. And it's something that we're committed to for a few weeks. There's no room in this place for guilt. What there is room for is conviction from God. So I don't want you to hear words that Keith said, because I'm just reading that out of a book that I've been studying for 3 years and trying to share and trying to learn and trying to live. And I will until I die. Those principles. Of course we want to lead courageously. Of course we want to invest eternally. But are we going to do the work that's required? Because you know what your wife and your kids need? They need a leader. They don't need a boss. I have never, ever had a lady come and tell me, I wished my husband was more weak. I have never heard that in all of ministry. I've never heard a lady come and say, I wish my husband was a little bit more weak. But I have heard, I wish my husband was more of a leader. I wished he knew that I believed in him. I don't care what he wants to do. Let's just do it. Let's do something. Let's move forward. I believe in him. And I ask, have you told him? You want to know how to be a good leader? Be a servant. And tend that garden. And do whatever it takes to tend the garden, to fertilize the garden, to multiply the garden. There was a couple in the first service today. They met at Maverick. So if you're single, I want you to know you can pick up somebody at Maverick. Okay? They met at Maverick, and you know how they met? She was having car troubles. She came out with a bunch of things to fix her car, like literally in her pajamas, like carrying stuff to her car. And he saw her. He happened to have an auto experience and worked in a shop. And he went and said, hey, I can help you out. First off, she was creeped out. Second off, she said, really? And said, take care of my vehicle. And over time, now they're married. They got kids. She was serving like crazy. She's probably serving your kids right now if you have a kid in the preschool right now. But you know why she fell for it? Because he was a servant. Dads, husbands, wives, moms, serve. Serve each other. Because I will tell you this, when you serve together, there's nothing like it. When you're on mission together, there's nothing like it. You know what else? These little weeds that come into your life, that start to come into your garden, how much does it cost for a weed to grow? It doesn't cost a dime, right? It's free. They don't even need water. They don't need fertilized. They're free. But you know how they leave? Expensive. There's a cost. Trouble comes cheap, but leaves expensive. Trouble will come into your marriage cheaply, quickly. You don't have to seek it out. It's going to be there. It'll find its way into your garden. But when it goes to leave, it's expensive. It's an immense amount of work, and it causes many people to walk out on the garden. It causes many people to leave the garden. Are we willing to do the hard and difficult work? This morning, we've been given an incredible gift. There's a couple that is sharing their story of how they dealt with infidelity. So we're going to watch a video that some of you, it's going to be your story, past or present. I'm telling you in advance because I really believe that God's word has done a work today, and I believe that this video, just simply watching and hearing somebody confess and hearing redemption, is going to heal people. I literally believe that. I believe that marriages and directions in life are going to be changed because of what you hear in this video. I believe that with all of my heart. That's what we've been praying for. That's what we've been praying around. That you may possibly connect because it's your story, or your story touches that story in some way, shape, or form. But the story that applies to all of us is the redemptive grace. So more than what you hear for the rest of our time today needs to be about redemption and grace. This video, this sounds crazy, but the video you're about to watch is going to be an act of worship. It's testifying of who God is and the power and the might of Jesus.
No one sets out to destroy their marriage shortly after the wedding. Though it was never my intention, it ultimately became my action. My story started at the age of 14. I was at a friend's house, and he pulled a magazine out from under his bed. That was the first time I'd ever seen a picture of a naked woman. The curiosity that followed just became more and more of a bad habit. In high school, I had a girlfriend, and I kept wanting to take that next physical step. Once I did, it just left me wanting more. I knew it wasn't right, but just knowing it wasn't enough. I really wish at that time I could have grasped and understood the destructive nature of what had really taken hold of me. A few years later, I met Caitlin. I remember how beautiful she really was. She had a huge heart for God and for others, and I knew that was something that I really wanted. 8 short months later, we were married. Things started out fine. I was juggling having a new wife, having a new job, while finishing my college degree, and that ultimately showed to be a huge challenge for me. I tried to deal with the new life stresses by using avoidance and distraction, visual distraction. I deeply wanted to grow closer to Caitlin, but my sin was keeping me trapped. I truly wanted to be a good husband and treat my wife well, but I didn't.
A few months into our marriage, I started journaling about how angry and frustrated I was with Ben and how he made me feel. The avoidance of me and the constant hammering of my character was bringing me down in ways I never thought possible. We asked a couple at the church that we were attending to meet with us. It was really hard at home, and I felt like we had some big communication problems.
Meeting that couple was just hitting the surface of our problems. I didn't want to divulge everything that was going on inside me, so the help was limited. My selfish desires and pursuits continued to cause a large void in our marriage. This ultimately led me to cultivate a relationship outside of our marriage. This was the lowest emotional, physical, and spiritual point in my life.
On New Year's, we sat down to watch a movie, and when we were scrolling through to see what we could find, there had been some porn that had been watched. I had asked him about it, and he denied it. But once he saw the tears that were pooling into my eyes, we both knew right away that we needed to get some help.
I was exposed in a way that was painful and uncomfortable. I knew we needed help, but was holding on too tightly to what was going on inside. A couple months later, Caitlin and I were having our typical heated argument over I wasn't loving her the way she wanted to be loved. I wasn't communicating the way she wanted to be communicated to. Ultimately came to a point where I yelled at her and said, "You check your own heart and your own self first." At that point, I had to leave the house to cool off.
I knew in that moment that it was time to go. I took my 1-year-old daughter with me, and we flew home to my family.
When I came back, I found the house was empty. And at that point, I knew it was serious. I immediately felt how empty of a feeling I had without my family there. That Sunday, I decided to attend church. The pastor there just happened to be talking about brokenness, and I could relate. One thing I knew, that God was asking me to bring that brokenness and darkness into light. And it wasn't long until I had that chance.
It was Sunday, and I had to call him. I asked him one question, if there was anything else that he needed to tell me. And he said yes. At that moment, he crushed me. I had felt like that life had stopped, that I was in a daze. As much as that hurt, everything started to make sense. I just asked God, like, what's next?
As painful as that conversation was, it was through that pain that my life, our marriage, and my relationship with God truly began.
I moved in with some friends. They were attending Rockharbor at the time, and they asked if I could come. I felt like that was that moment that within each service, God was starting to rebuild my heart.
I started attending Rockharbor with Caitlin and made the decision to fully surrender my heart to Jesus. And I was baptized at Eagle Island. I didn't realize this at the time, but God had already put so many people in our lives to help us throughout this process. True friends and family who could love us and support us, that made all the difference. I began to carry out the great intentions that I'd once had for myself and my family. Through the grace of God, Caitlin found forgiveness in her heart for me.
After some time of healing, I was able to meet with one of the gals that Ben had an affair with. I was able to look at her in the eyes and say, "I forgive you." I couldn't believe the sense of freedom that I had inside after that moment. Through the hurt and pain, I was able to truly understand what the grace and forgiveness of Jesus means to me.
Caitlin and I have been married now for 7 years. Bearing my pride and placing my sin before God was what ultimately changed my life. I strive every day to be a better follower of Jesus, a better husband for my wife, and a better father for my kids. Don't get me wrong, I still make mistakes. But looking back on where I was, where we were, and where we've come now, this is a redemption story that was only possible because of God's love and His pursuit of us.
Did you hear the redemption? Did you hear the grace, the forgiveness, the healing, the strength, the courage that it required on both parts to say, I will forgive, and then I will repent, and I will make whole, and I'll trust that God's going to do this. God will cover to see all of that. God writes that story. He wrote that story for us to hear. He wrote that story for us to believe. He wrote that story for us to testify. Satan does not want that story to be shared. The tough part is, think about what he said. He said, my intention, things I never intended became my action. We don't know where the drift is going to take us. And there's some of you in here that you're feeling certain elements of guilt. And my prayers is that you would be able to sort out what is just guilt, which is from Satan, and what's conviction. And that's from God. God's saying, hey, let me call you from this darkness to the light. Trust me. I'm a good father. God is love. Loveology. God is love. So the study of love means the study of God, which means the more and more we get to know who he is, we begin to understand love differently. We begin to love differently. It revolutionizes the parameters, the forgiveness, the things that we want to put around marriage. See, for some, you've either lost a marriage or some decisions were made and you're not married anymore, and you're living under this weight and you're living under this guilt and you're feeling like you're a second-class citizen in the kingdom of heaven. And I want you to know that that is a lie. That is not the truth. There is grace, there is forgiveness. For some, you're thinking, you're making decisions. We've seen at Rockharbor people that had papers filed to be divorced say we're not going to now. We've seen people that have gotten divorced that have then gotten remarried because God was writing a story and he wasn't done with it. We've seen couples go through things like this that God wants to redeem. What does this mean for us? We have to do something. Those thoughts, your heart, the things that God is speaking to you, that we would be different, that we would grow to know him and love him better. And in knowing and loving him better, we will know and love one another better. Because the more that we love him, the more that we understand and we press into his love, the more of his love that flows out of us. Would you bow your heads with me? There's quite possibly 4 responses that I was thinking in everything that we've talked about. And I want to phrase them as from this day forward response. The first from this day forward response would be, my marriage will be different from this day forward because of choices that I am making. Because of submission that's going to take place in my heart to God, and then I will submit in my marriage, whether male or female, but I will submit in my marriage. For some, it's from this day forward in my singleness or my single again. I am going to trust God. I'm going to make him my first. I'm going to focus on him first, and I'm going to trust him with the rest. Maybe it's from this day forward. I want to choose the path that Ben took. Confession. Seeking forgiveness. That story might have been a little too close to home. Maybe it's Caitlin's. From this day forward, I want to take the step that Caitlin took to follow God, to extend forgiveness, or if it's something that's not reconcilable, to be at peace with God, not at peace with man, not trying to prove a point, but at peace with God in that. But from this day forward, I surrender. Maybe it's because today, God has moved on your heart today or through this series or in this season to follow him as your Lord and Savior, to truly press in and receive that love that he talks about when he says, no greater love does any man have than this, than to lay down his life for his friends. And I've seen that love, and Christ has done that for me. So from this day forward, I surrender to that love and grace. The opportunity we have to respond right now for salvation, for restoration. This song that we're going to sing talks about being children of God, that we are no longer slaves. We have been set free. This song that we are going to sing and that the band is going to sing for us is an opportunity for us to respond in worship. It's an opportunity for us to even just in our seats and whether you stand and praise, but to make progress to better understand the love that God has for us.